잠시 후 게임을 시작하겠습니다.
The secret sauce of Netflix's Squid Game is the crafty way it balances the thrills of a binge-worthy streaming drama with the brutal agony and potent social commentary of its premise. Down on their luck, characters risking their lives in a potentially lucrative series of amped-up children's games is a tricky thing to navigate. But across 3 seasons, the inherent tragedy of it all never dampens our curiosity about how the arena will test its players next. My main question going into the Mega Hit's final episodes, how will creator and writer Hwang Dan-hyuk keep piquing that curiosity without making us numb to all the death and destruction or burying the messaging that made the show such a hit? The answer? By driving home the cruelties of the system with the same cinematic flair that made Squid Game such a hit in the first place, albeit with a few clumsily executed, cringe-inducing choices. The premiere returns us to the arena's bloody corridor immediately after the previous season's shootout between the rebelling players and the pink jumpsuited guards. After seeing the game's frontman order the death of his closest ally, Jung-jae, protagonist Gi-hun becomes a visibly grief-stricken shell of his former, more determined self. Lee Jung-jae offers a convincingly chilling depiction of a once fiery crusader grappling with his failed mission to end the games for good.
이겼어. 왜 나만 살려둔 거야?
As Gi-hun becomes overtaken with guilt and quiet rage, Lee nails the complexities of a person battling the forces aligned against him and, at times, losing. The momentary cracks in his moral resolve are distressing, but also surprisingly grounding. He's way more relatable than a hero who unwaveringly commits to taking the high road. This is especially true when he learns of Dae-ho's cowardly decision to stay out of the fight against the guards after agreeing to secure more ammo, which arguably leads to many unnecessary deaths, including Jung-jae's. Tensions between Gi-hun and Dae-ho devolve into a heightened game of cat and mouse, pushing a corner Dae-ho to shed the layers of his personality that once positioned him as an affable background character. He's far more nuanced while on defense against Gi-hun, allowing Kang Han-yul to step up and match Lee's energy with each ill-fated interaction. We see a real shift play out in what's arguably Squid Game's most harrowing game, which pits players against each other more overtly than ever before. Split into 2 opposing teams, one group is tasked with killing the other in a high-stakes rendition of hide and seek. In comparison to more metaphorical games that came before it, this one gets a little too literal, putting actual daggers in the players' hands. Part of the intrigue in past games was due to players making split-second decisions to save their hides. Here, the choice is essentially stripped from them, but it still contains some of Squid Game's harshest heartbreaks and lessons. Chief among those lessons, good intentions never guarantee a hero's ending, or that they'll remain good for long.
선생님이 여기 우리를 구하러 오셨다는 것 저는 지금도 믿어요.
It's a reality that makes this particular chapter comparable to the gut punch of Season 1's Gangwoo. It's also where Park Sung-hoon, returning as the combat-trained trans character, and fan favorite Hyung-joo gets to flex some action star skills and deliver solid physical and emotional blows. The game's biggest reveal, however, is that of the wealthy VIPs masquerading as Squid Game guards. Previously only seen briefly in Season 1, the VIPs' increased involvement in the games makes them a prominent part of Season 3. Their participation leads to one of the season's biggest weaknesses, not because their overt gleefulness cranks up the brutality in any meaningful way, but because their cringe-inducing dialogue and almost cartoonishly villainous line delivery clashes with their co-star's sincerity. Beyond that, their insights, which mostly amount to recaps of what we just watched unfold, are almost entirely unnecessary. And on a show that's maintained a decent pace up to this point, the VIP's edition feels a lot like filler. Its only saving grace is that it becomes the source of a pivotal development in the game when Joon-hee unexpectedly gives birth and the rich spectators vote to make the baby not so much a bundle of joy, but a bit of weird computer animation from what I can tell, a new player. Apart from giving certain players a renewed reason to survive and raising questions about how exactly a newborn can compete in the Squid Game, the baby is a brilliant, devastating show of the trauma handed down from parent to child. As her fate is left up to a soulless system and desperate opponents, she brings a 21st century disregard for children into alarming focus. This predictably culminates in an intense face-off between Gi-hun and the baby's father, being morally ambiguous crypto bro Myung-gi. but the lack of surprise doesn't negate the final battle's absolutely breathtaking execution, concluding with cinematography that's both haunting and a testament to the level of craft that went into Squid Game. Hwang's decision to not take the easy way out is admirable. A much cleaner, happier ending wouldn't have been as effective. Instead, we're left with a final reminder that there are very few winners in either the Squid Game or its many everyday analogs. We're also left with the parting scene and A-list cameo, because we can't forget just how big of a global phenomenon we're leaving behind. That could be interpreted as leaving the door open for future games. It's a daunting thought. Squid Games is a cautionary tale that benefits from brevity, rather than a multiverse of pointless spin-offs and sequels. On its own, the ending further illustrates a dangerous game with global impact, one that we can try to outlive, but never fully escape. Squid Game finds its way to a memorable ending, but not without some notable hangups. New games and cycles of trauma drive home the cruelty of this universe in novel ways, and Lee Jung-jae wraps his iconic portrayal of Gi-hun in stunning fashion. Some of Season 3's twists manage to cleverly and punishingly illustrate the long-lasting ripple effects of a capitalist hellscape, while others, like expanded roles for the wealthy VIPs, watching and wagering on the games, adds unnecessary noise. This final chapter isn't without flaws, but it still delivers the suspense and cinematic polish that made Squid Game such a hit in the first place.
아직도 사람을 믿나?
For more TV reviews, check out what we thought of Andor Season 2 and The Last of Us Season 2. And be sure to follow IGN wherever you like to watch.